This is Steve Cochran. Welcome to the Deep Six. Each week, Patty Steele, radio legend from New York City, and me, radio guy from Chicago. Some call me a legend. And I say, what? Because my hearing's not what it once was. But we do something called the Deep Six, Patty and I do. And the deal is this. We're so bombarded with all of the heavyweight, horrible news, the nonstop COVID, the Republicans and the Democrats fighting, the lunacy on the far right fringe. All of it. It's just it's so exhausting. It's exhausting. So we take 6 stories that aren't what everybody is beating into the ground. We give you our take on them, and we allow you to kick them around for yourself and show off at parties and get-togethers, though you really shouldn't be going to those unless you're wearing 5 or 6 masks. Really, we make, both of us, you the listener and us, we make us better people. Don't you think? It's called The Deep Six. I hope you'll give it a listen. Let me know what you think. thecochranshow@gmail.com. And stick around at the end of the Deep Six because we're doing something different next week with it. It's important, and I think you'll like to hear it and probably share it with somebody you know because it's something that affects all of us. So this time on the Deep Six, you're going to hear the story of Betty White possibly being Gen Z. How is that possible? She was 99. Well, there's a lot of similarities. And the list of what experts say you need to keep in your car to safely drive this winter is insane. You're literally going to have a trailer behind your car so that you can make sure that you have what you need when the trailer causes your car to run off the road. But give it a listen. There's some stuff in there that actually may be good for you. And there's a story here about Einstein's balls. Now, some of you may be saying, Steve, is that a band you were in? Yes, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. So what is the deal with Einstein's balls? Find out all now when you listen to The Deep Six. Are you purchasing a home and tired of getting your offers declined? You need to do what I did. I called Team Hochberg, my sister, my daughter, my son, my daughter-in-law. Look, if it's good enough for my family, you know I'm recommending it to you. Team Hochberg, they're always looking out for your financial best interest. Tom wanted to buy a home before selling his current home, but he didn't qualify. Tom's grandmother, Sharon, didn't want him to lose the home, so she gave him a $400,000 personal loan. Thank you, Granny. A banker told Tom he'd have to wait 6 months to secure a mortgage to pay back his grandma Sharon. That's not true. Sharon didn't want to wait 6 months, so she called Team Hochberg for a free consultation. Team Hochberg helped Tom secure a delayed finance mortgage so he could pay grandma back immediately upon the sale of the current home. To learn more about how your family could benefit from delayed financing and help you in the process, the little risk to the family member here issuing the short-term loan, by the way, call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or go to 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or 56david.com. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061.
The Deep Six. 6 stories from your world in 30 minutes or less. Hosted by Patty Steele and Steve Cochran. The Deep Six is on.
Happy New Year and welcome back to the Deep Six, where Patty Steele in New York, me, Steve Cochran in Chicago. We give you 6 stories we hope you're going to talk about, we think you will talk about. And as we kick off this new year, happy year, Patty Steele.
Oh, happy New Year to you as well.
And we're going to get into what you did New Year's Eve in just a second. One quick note.
Yes.
We just went through the whole January 6th anniversary thing.
Right.
And there's 2 names I want to mention. Brian Sicknick, the officer who was killed after being injured on that day, died of his injuries the next day.
Right.
And Officer Eugene Goodman, this is the officer who distracted the rioters down a different hallway. Mm-hmm. God bless both of them. Mm-hmm. And their families, working hard to protect us, the country, the democracy, and the people there. No political statements to be made. I just want you to remember those 2 names, Brian Sicknick and Eugene Goodman. We're lucky that they both lived when we lived, and I wish Sicknick's girlfriend and his extended family well. All right, so New Year's Eve. Let me just tell you something, Patty. Mm-hmm. New Year's Eve, I do a New Year's Eve stand-up comedy show with my friends.
Yes, you do.
And we do it every year. And we're really on the fence about doing it this year. But the theater, we did it at the beautiful Rao Theater north of Chicago. We've done it there before. They're really careful. You have to be vaxxed and boosted to get in. You have to show your card. You have to wear a mask. So it's as safe as it gets. Mm-hmm. So the only danger is I don't do stand up regularly anymore. So when I do, I'm a real pain in the ass for 2 or 3 days leading up to that day. So my family generally avoided me. But the offsetting good news was my friend Paul Coit from Cox Sport 2 in London brought his family over for the holidays. He was a part of the New Year's Eve show. We ended up having a great New Year's Eve. But I saw nothing. I saw nothing
in the way of
New Year's Eve, by binging and doing all the things.
Oh, all of the TV, the movies, all that stuff.
So I'm leaning on you. I'm leaning on you because I know you saw everything. So let's go through it. What'd you watch?
Oh my gosh, I did see everything. I actually saw some things that I'd already seen before because I was absolutely convinced my kids should watch them. Like we watched Dope Sick again. And
that's really good.
It was just as good.
Hard to watch, but really good.
Yeah, no kidding. We saw 1883, which is the prequel to Yellowstone. Gotta say, not a fan of Yellowstone. Love 1883
really?
As much as I've seen of it. Yeah, it's set in 1883. Go figure.
Is this the Sam Elliott deal?
This is Sam Elliott. And I think that's part of it for me.
Sure.
I absolutely love him. I think he's really amazing. And Tim McGraw and Faith Hill doing unbelievable job. He is a badass cowboy and had been in the story, had also fought in the Civil War. And so you see how that kind of informed the character he'd become as a husband and I was just saying as a wife, but no, as a husband and a dad and now as a pioneer headed west on the Oregon Trail. And that's really what it is. It shows you just how vicious that world was in trying to find a new life.
So 1883 you'd recommend as well, but you mentioned something to me called, is it Power of the Dog?
The Power of the Dog, which is
that?
Also, that's a Western, but set in the 1920s. And Benedict Cumberbatch, who I pretty much love in everything he does.
Right.
He is such a prick in this. Oh my God. It's really like twists your head around. But if you watch it and you're really confused by the ending, you have to pay. I don't want to say anything. You have to pay very close attention to everything that happens in the last 10 to 15 minutes, because that will explain, as long as you are a little bit of a detective, you will understand why everything happens the way it does.
Great pro tip by you. So it just goes to my theory in life, which is pee early, pee often.
There you go.
You get that out of your system and you don't miss it.
And don't pee late.
A couple more, though. I don't want to let you off the hook here because Don't Look Up. I actually started watching it.
Right.
And I love the cast and I love the director and the writer. And I got 20, 30 minutes into it. And I'm going, what am I watching? Is it worth me finishing it? Because I didn't finish it. I'm
going to say, don't look back.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan, but you know what? Got a friend who works for the CBS News, and he and his wife texted me and went, oh my God, we just saw Don't Look Up. It's a great movie. They also didn't like Power of the Dog, but when I pointed out to them what went on in that last 10 to 15 minutes, then they were like, oh, wow, you're right. And then they decided they liked it. So
they had to go back and see it again.
Yeah.
The important message of Don't Look Up is this metaphor for climate change and idiots in government who aren't paying attention in the stupid fight we're having while the earth is under attack. Does it work? I
didn't really totally see that in it.
Wow.
I don't think it was crystal clear. It's a little too, I don't know. They leaned a little too heavy on comedy in it for me to enjoy it on a level that taught me something. But everybody
about Meryl Streep's ass, because I understand there's a stunt double standing in for her.
Yes,
I believe it's the first ass, right? It's the president's ass.
Yeah, it comes really late in the movie. I'll just tell you that. So if you want to go back and watch because you really want to see your ass, even though it's a stunt ass, you got to really watch the entire movie.
I had a nickel for every time somebody called me a stunt ass. Oh my God.
One of the movies I saw that I absolutely loved and the critics did not agree with me, although audiences did, was The Tender Bar with directed by George Clooney with Ben Affleck.
Oh, wait, there's a backstory to this you got to tell because I'm watching Kimmel 2 weeks ago.
Right.
There's a little kid on Kimmel. I don't know. They're talking about The Tender Bar.
Daniel Ranieri
comes on.
Yep.
What is the tie to all of that?
Well, what happened was at the beginning of the pandemic, this kid, he's from Brooklyn. He was maybe at the time 7 years old. His mother videotapes him. And I guess I shouldn't use bad words. Are we a family-friendly podcast?
Well, yeah, but I think in this case it's appropriate. You can say what you need to say. Yeah.
So the little kid is on, and his mother is saying, "Hey, I know that we're stuck inside the house. Maybe we should think about going out and enjoying, a little walk outside." And he goes. "We can't go out of the house. It's a fucking lockdown." And she says, but wouldn't you like to just go get some fresh air? And he goes, "What don't you get about a fucking lockdown?
And he's
you
a little
stay."
kid.
Yeah. He goes, "What the fuck? You gotta stay in the fucking house. It's not an out down, an outside down. It's a lockdown." So anyway, she puts that up and everybody's looking at it. And Kimmel sees it. Now, keep in mind, they didn't use their last name. They just said his name was Daniel R. and his mother's name was Danielle. So his staff goes and looks up every single Danielle R. in Brooklyn. There were like 180 of them. And they find him. They call him. He does the show. And after he's done that night, George Clooney calls Kimmel and says, "Oh my God, I got to get a hold of this kid. I think I got a role for him in my movie." So Kimmel says, okay, gives him the contact. They talk to him. They decide this kid is perfect for the movie. And the funny story of that is Kimmel then called the mom and said, "I want to give him a really special gift. What do you think he'd like?" She said, "Well, he really wants a PlayStation 5. So Kimmel, of course, nobody could get PlayStation 5s during that almost 2 years ago. And Kimmel, it takes some time. He doesn't get it. So there's a video that George Clooney and Daniel do together. And he says, "Hey, I saw you were on with Kimmel. And did he give you anything?" And he goes, "Well, he told me he was going to give me a PlayStation 5, but he fucked me." He never came up with the PlayStation 5. And so George looks at Kimmel and goes, "What the fuck? Where's the PlayStation 5?
Right.
So eventually Kimmel says, "Well, I did give it to you." And he goes, "Yeah, 4 fucking months later, but then you fucked me again and didn't give me any games." So then they finally sent him games. So then they get, George, the kid, and Kimmel on after the movie.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
After the movie was made.
And the kid has this sweet little face.
Oh, he's adorable.
And I never saw the original viral video. So the idea that he's letting F-bombs fly is just funny.
And he does in the movie too, by the way. And I didn't know all of this before I saw the movie. So I was like, wow, I'm surprised his mother let him swear like that in the movie. And then it turns out the whole reason he's in the movie is because his mom had a viral video of him doing that.
Do you know anybody in your own life? Because I don't, but I know grownups who talk like that around their kids, and it throws me.
It does throw you. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know anybody that's got a kid that talks like that?
I don't really know.
I don't either.
I know one woman who, if you saw her, she looks like she's a great gardener. She lives in my neighborhood. She's adorable, very gentle looking, beautiful curly hair. But man, has she got a mouth on her. And she did used to use that in front of her kids. I will say that. But that was maybe 12 years ago. I used to see that. And I haven't really seen her since, but I do know her kids. Both are super accomplished. Sure. They're out of college and they're doing big things. So, hey, whatever.
I would just tell you that don't be surprised if you talk like that around your kids, that at some point they tell you, "What the fuck are you talking about going outside? It's a lockdown."
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't be shocked.
Well, certainly, because this kid was so at ease with using that language.
Right.
But it's if you see the movie, you'll understand the surprise. I loved it. I loved it. And he's precious. And it's a really tender story about, and it's a true story, by the way, about JR, what's his name? Moore, I think.
Don't know.
But anyway, it's a true story about him growing up. And funny enough, his dad was a New York City disc jockey on the radio who was an alcoholic. And it shows you the power of family and how the family helped him deal, how especially Ben Affleck as his uncle who owns a bar out on Long Island, how he helped him deal with the pain and the disappointment of a dad who was just never there for him.
And so you'd highly recommend it.
I highly recommend it. The book is spectacular, The Tender Bar. The movie, absolutely wonderful. So either one, preferably both. And I think you will not be disappointed.
I will recommend something that everyone in America has seen but me. I'm partway through now. The Beatles Get Back. Yeah. So let's look for my review in that completion of that. Around May or June, I should be done.
Right when no one cares anymore.
Right. Yeah, I've got another review coming up of E.T. the extraterrestrial. I just finished that. So,
well, I did the same thing when we were watching films. I with all my kids here, and I was off for a couple of weeks. We were doing some throwback stuff. Like I either had never seen or didn't remember Gangs of New York. Wow.
Yeah, it's hardcore.
That's hardcore, but really fascinating. It's funny for some weird reason, I don't like violent movies, but I somehow don't have a problem with historical violent movies.
Right.
1883, Gangs in New York. Yeah, it really happened. And it is not, it's not egregious. It's used to make a point in both those films. So that's why.
Well, let's get a rating system going here by patties. 4 patties up would be your best patty situation.
Right.
So Tender Bar, 4 patties.
Oh, yes.
And don't look up 1 patty. Half a patty.
Yeah, maybe no, you know what? I've got to give it because I do like anybody who cares about climate change and wants to make it right. I'll give them a 1.5 with a little ketchup on top. So if we're talking patties.
1.5 patties. All right, quickly, a couple other show business things. There's a new James Bond, and it's not going to be Tom Hardy. It's not official yet, but this guy was in the mix. Were you a fan of Bridgerton?
Is it him?
Yeah, Reggie.
Oh God, I'm so happy.
Reggie Jean Page. Yeah, Reggie Jean Page. I think that's the pronunciation. Basically, my French accent comes from me knowing Pepe Le Pew back in the day. So all I can really say is ho, ho, ho. But Reggie Jean Page appears to have beaten Tom Hardy. It's not official yet, but that's where they're headed. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to ask you about the item number 1 here is if you saw Andy Cohen drunk on his ass on New Year's Eve on CNN.
Yes, it was hysterical to me. And it's interesting in the aftermath, the way it's played out, because he got very, very drunk and he's like, look over my shoulder, there's Ryan Seacrest and his losers, performers. And it was, I guess, Journey with their new singer because Steve Perry's gone.
Right.
And then he went after the mayor, the outgoing mayor of New York, de Blasio, sayonara,
just
sucker.
Ripped him. Just dumped all over de Blasio, just ripped him. And I would think that somewhere Kathy Griffin is going, wait a minute, I got fired for what I did. How is it okay that Andy Cohen did that? Well, show business capital, I guess would be my answer. And
exactly.
And Andy Cohen said he'll be back. CNN sources are saying he'll be back. I didn't see a whole lot from them about his outburst. Did they even scold him?
Well, it was interesting because some quote unquote insider told Radar Online that he would not be back next year, primarily because Anderson Cooper wasn't going to come back next year because he wanted to spend New Year's Eve with his baby son.
Oh, sure. 3
hours later, CNN comes out and says, he most certainly will be back, as will Anderson. And they said in that you can, and that's the official word. Now, the next day, then Andy said, I really regret dumping on Ryan Seacrest. He's a great guy. He said that was just uncalled for. I shouldn't have dumped on the artists but he said, I have no regrets about dumping on de Blasio.
Wow. Well, he stuck to his story. So I guess good for him. Are you also glad de Blasio's gone? Where do you fall on that?
Pretty much everyone in New York. It doesn't matter your party. Everyone is pretty much glad. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't add much to our city.
It was time to go.
The Deep Six, number 2.
The great Betty White. We're going to talk for a second about living your life like Betty White. I think I've told the story to you. I don't remember if we talked about it because she just passed, obviously.
Right.
But isn't it amazing that she lived 99 years and we feel cheated because she's gone?
I know.
Because you just wanted more.
You know why? Because she always wanted more. She always lived forward. And that was the beauty of her. She just, you look back at her career in radio, in movies, in the emerging television industry where in the beginning, nobody really wanted her. So she kind of fit herself into these little roles and parts and just kept evolving and changing and never stopped. Right. You think about her career really spanned 9 different decades. She got started in the late 1930s, and she did the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s.
It's amazing. It's absolutely
crazy,
amazing.
Huh?
And by the way, a cheap plug for the Live from My Office podcast, which I do in addition to the Deep Six with Patty, the podcast that posts on January 5th is one with my friend Paul Coit, who I mentioned from London. And I also do a tribute to Betty White there, talk about the last time I interviewed her and play some clips you may not have heard. But one of the things, I don't know if you saw it, Patty, was Johnny Carson, who described Betty White. He goes, I've known you forever, and I still don't feel like I know you. He said, I think this is perfect. He goes, you're somewhere between Mother Teresa and a hooker. And she just laughed because it's true.
That's the beauty of her. 100%.
Yeah.
That was so great. You had an interesting interview with her that you told me.
Yeah, well, I was lucky to talk to her a lot. Several times. But the last time I talked to her, very sweet woman off the air. We have a lovely conversation. I go on the air, really excited. Betty White's back. And let me bring the lovely and talented Betty White out. Pause. Betty, are you there? Pause. Perfect comedic timing as always. And she goes, Steve, let's get one thing clear. I am not a piece of meat. Knocking me on my...
She kind of is.
Yeah, of course she is.
In the best possible way.
Oh, she's the best. She's the best. Yeah. But anyway, how do we live our lives like Betty White? What are the experts telling us?
Well, I read this article in Forbes by this guy named Joe Coughlin, who leads the MIT Institute of Aging. It's called the Age Lab. And he said, I really have to direct this primarily to millennials and Gen Zers, because he said, you need to think about this, the way this woman lived her life, what living a long life means. He said, because here's the thing. They are projecting that nearly half of you will live to be 100 years old.
Right.
So if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to do whatever I do, I'm going to have a career that maybe spans 30 years, then I'm going to pack it in, I'm going to go walk on the beach or, play some golf or whatever it is. He said, it's really not the way it is. You have to think about your career the way she did, almost like it's a gig. Like, okay, I'm doing some radio. Now I'm going to do this new thing called television.
Right.
I'm going to do some talk shows. And she always stood up for what she believed in.
Yep.
Like on her original show, she had this guy who was a black guy who was a tap dancer, and she got a lot of hate mail particularly from the South. And
that was in the mid-50s, and she refused to not have him on.
No, she said, live with it. Tough. And she did lose her show. Not, maybe a couple of years later, they said it was ratings, but it was also but obviously there was an issue there. And she kept moving on. She became the queen of game shows.
Yep.
And then she started appearing in all kinds of things, from everything from, Ally McBeal, I guess. And he says the thing she really should be remembered best for is that her main television character came in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. and she was 50 years old.
Yep.
When she got that
look
role.
how her career exploded after 50. Suzanne
and then
Evans,
she did the Golden Girls,
the Golden Girls, and then Hot in Cleveland
when she
TV
was what,
Land.
in
Yeah,
the
and
90s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah, exactly. And even into the early 2000s, I think. So those three shows, she was like Bob.
Well, I mean, her
Bob
80s and 90s, yes, well into the 2000s. Yeah.
So she was an amazing lady, and live your life.
She was always positive. And that's what he says. You have to keep thinking forward, because if you think you're going to retire at the age of 55, you may have 45 years, more than half your adult life ahead of you. A, you got to pay for that. And B, you got to keep engaged and looking forward so that you just don't sink into the abyss.
So live your life like Betty White, somewhere between Mother Teresa and a hooker, and you're going to be just fine.
That's it, baby.
That's all.
That's all.
Item number 3, let's talk science.
Oh, I love that.
You know, we're all about learning.
Yes. Oh my God, we are.
How many breaths do you think you take in a day? Ballpark.
Breasts?
Well, now that you said that, breaths.
It depends. If I'm around you, probably more
breathing.
Than normal.
Heavy breathing.
Right. I don't know. I mean, what? Let's see. Now I'm not going to count right because I'm thinking about it. I'm going to say I take maybe 12 breaths an hour, 12 breaths a minute every 5 seconds.
Times 60 times. Listen, why make you go through all that math? 25,000 breaths per day.
Really?
25,000 breaths per day.
And I'm breathing when I'm sleeping too.
That's right. You better be. And there's a journalist named James Nestor who wrote a book about breathing. Yes, he did. And it was a New York Times bestseller called Breath. In the research, he says we're breathing wrong and we need to start breathing like a baby. Now, you're a mom, I'm a dad, right?
Right.
Remember when you were looking at your kids when they were in the cribs, and we'd all be lying if we said we didn't do this. You freak out, you go in, I go, I just want to make sure they're breathing.
Right. Yeah. You wet your finger and you put it under their nose so you can feel that tiny breath.
Hold the mirror.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, fog the mirror.
Yeah.
But you look at a baby, the way the baby breathes, they know how to breathe, right? Because that's what they do. And their little bellies go up and down because you breathe with your belly.
Right.
And the idea is
diaphragm. Yep.
Yeah. The abdomen below in particular, because here's the deal. Blowout, right? Gotta be careful how we phrase things. Exhale and you'll feel your chest go down. When you exhale, you blow out, your chest goes in, right? When you breathe through your nose, take the air in through your nose and breathe out your mouth. So you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. You're breathing through your belly. It does, according to this author and scientists who agree, this is a way to breathe the most effectively and for you to actually be able to get the full benefits of the oxygen you need to live. It helps your circulation. It helps all things. So start focusing on breathing through your nose and out your mouth, through your nose, out your mouth, through your nose, out your mouth. And if you do that, let's say 23,000 out of the 24,000 breaths you take a day, you'll be just fine and you'll be healthier. I buy into it. I do.
You know what's really interesting about that is I have on occasion have been known to get a little bit anxiety ridden over all kinds of things. I just get anxious and then I like, oh my God, I'm feeling chest pains. We all do that a little bit.
Sure.
And so the other day I was feeling it and I went, wait, is this a heart attack or is this anxiety?
Sure.
So I looked it up on my phone. And one of the things they said is if it can be alleviated by that kind of breathing, they say, breathe in through your nose for like 10 seconds, hold it for a second, and then breathe out for 10 seconds.
There you go.
And you release the anxiety and it worked for me. So that's very interesting. So it not only works for, I guess for breathing and sleeping, but also anxiety. Huh?
Well, and I'll give you more help here in our science segment story number 3. Mm-hmm. People are freaking out. Where do I get instant tests for COVID? You can't get them at the Walgreens. You can't get them at the CVS. You can't get them anywhere. They're all gone.
Right? Yeah.
They're all gone. You can back order them on Amazon. Maybe it takes 2 weeks. Maybe it takes whatever, but where can you get them? I have the solution.
Okay.
There's a service you may have heard advertisements on the radio for this called Roman, Roman.
Right.
And Roman is a male telemed service, which after doctor's approval will get you erectile dysfunction drugs if you clear medical screening, and also stuff you're going to need to not go bald. For those of you who know me, you'll know that I didn't attend that meeting. So the people at Roman also sell health things, and they seem to have a legitimate supply of instant COVID tests. And you can go on, at least as of the time we're recording this, you can go on the Roman site and you can get COVID instant tests there. It's just a little tip. I can't promise.
Well, let me tell you one other thing that I heard this week. While you're on that site, also get yourself some Cialis or some Viagra, because now they're saying that those can actually help you in the fight against COVID.
No kidding.
Right. That they're saying that somehow it either lessens the severity of COVID or whatever. So
probably just regardless how you feel, it probably creates quite a distraction.
Exactly. Yeah. Calms you down.
Yeah. And by the way, in a semi-related story, our third item in the science section here, let's talk about Thomas Edison's balls.
I can't stop talking about them.
And by that, I mean in a scientific way. And no, I don't mean those. Thomas Edison, who knows how many years ago, decades and decades and decades and decades ago, when he lived, obviously.
Like 100 years or more.
Plus, right?
Yeah.
He found a way to maximize his creativity with a trick while napping. Here's the trick. He had orbs. They could be metal balls. They could be something.
Balls, but you wanted to say orbs.
Something he could just hold in his hands.
Right.
And as he was falling asleep, taking a nap, when he fell off to sleep, there's that moment where you go from sort of awake into those first stages of deeper sleep.
Right.
The brain functions in a way, according to science, that is a very creative phase. And when he would fall into that, the orbs would drop from his hands because he'd be sleeping.
He'd drop his balls.
He would drop his balls. And by the way, if that happens, get to a clinic. He'd drop his balls and it would wake him up. And he would be in that creative zone that he wanted to be in. And he swore that it absolutely helped his creativity. Modern scientists say he's absolutely right. And you say, we don't help you on the deep six. I say, ha!
Boy, you clearly have been holding your balls, because that was a really, really creative thing you just came up with.
Thank you for noticing.
The Deep Six, number 4.
Let's talk travel. You've got two things you need to tell us about. One is this when you get bumped from a flight or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just learned this because I've got kids flying all over the place. Not happy about it, but they are. And one of the things I discovered, because you know how many flights have been canceled,
sure.
And it isn't just around the holidays, it's whether it's a shortage of staffing on the airlines, and they have canceled thousands and thousands and thousands of flights. So here's what they tell us. If you confirm your reservation, check in, and arrive at the gate on time, and the airline doesn't get you to your destination within 1 hour of the correct arrival time, you're entitled to compensation. And they say there's no limit on the amount they can offer you, so you can negotiate.
Who do you negotiate with?
You negotiate at the desk. And
agent?
if they need to, they'll, I guess, call a management person in and you can really go after them. And this TikTok individual, Erica Kullberg, also a lawyer, says, if you're bumped and you have a 1 to 2 hour delay, or 1 to 4 hours for international flights, you're entitled to as much as at least 4 times the cost of your fare one way, even if you get rebooked.
Wow.
If the delay is more than 2 hours, it's as much as 8 times the amount.
Should I bring my agent with me on all trips so he can actually handle it?
And make sure you get your calculator on your phone going so you can kind of figure out the cost times 8 of a one-way flight if you're bumped for 2 hours. Okay.
Wow.
Now, here's the other thing I was going to tell you about: what to keep in your car if you're trapped in snow and ice. Because
you know what's weird is we had no bad weather in Chicago, and we didn't have a white Christmas. And we were leading right up to New Year's. We finally got a little bit of snow for New Year's. Now that we're into 2022, it's like we're going to Alaska for a weather break. It's cold, it's windy, it's nasty. It's like winter's making up for lost time. So this is actually an important thing here. This is stuff I need to keep in my car.
Well, you know, what's funny is like, you remember the story out of Virginia last week or so about all these people trapped on the highways because of the snow?
Sure.
Well, here in New York, we had an ice storm and people were trapped in their cars, even though the temperatures were like in the low 30s and it wasn't snowing, but it had this soft sort of sleety rain onto ice cold pavement because it had been in the teens and 20s last few days.
Worst combo. Right there.
Yeah. So all these accidents and stuff. They say the stuff you should keep in your car. And by the way, you're going to need a bigger car, a cell phone and car charger, first aid kit, blanket, drinking water, and snacks for everyone in the car, including pets, a flashlight with extra fresh batteries, rags, paper towels, pre-moistened wipes, a basic set of tools, along with duct tape and car emergency warning devices such as road flares or reflectors. The duct tape makes me think that you're taking people hostage. An ice scraper snow brush, jumper cables and a jump pack, traction aids such as sand, salt, non-clumping cat litter, a tarp, raincoat and gloves, and a shovel.
And by the way,
where are you supposed to sit to drive the car?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. I was going to say, if there is room to sit, there's no one else in the car with you to save you.
Right, exactly. Or to share your snacks.
You know, it may be more efficient since I'm traveling with my agent now because of the negotiation thing at the airport
Right.
to just have a mechanic travel with my agent and
Right.
me. And then maybe we could work it out. But that's a legitimate list. And you know what we can do is we can post the link to that story in the show notes on your end of this podcast and mine as well. So you would go to Live from My Office wherever you hear it. The show notes are there. Or you would go, Patty, where for you?
PattySteele.com.
Okay. And the show notes will be posted there. So that'd be a good link for people to have so they can see that list.
Absolutely.
The Deep Six, number 5.
Celebrity trials are always interesting, even if you claim they're not. Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos disaster is complete by way of a jury. Whether or not there's appeals and things of that nature, we don't know. When she's sentenced, we don't know. Experts seem to think she's not going to get a whole lot of time, and she might go to Camp Cupcake prison like that Martha Stewart went to.
First of all, we should fill you in on who she is. In case
go ahead.
Know.
Do the background.
Theranos is a company that she came up with, and she claimed to have invented this incredible medical device that through one drop of blood could tell you everything that was wrong with your body. And she got almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
From people like Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison, all these people, the people that own Walmart and Amway and all these people. Oh yeah, we got to get in on this. She's incredibly beautiful, sylph-like blonde, and giant blue eyes and very, very intelligent. She went to Stanford and, she put this thing out and she made all of this money. And it turned out she was actually screwing with everybody. They would take the little drop of blood and they'd run over to a lab and do 1 billion different tests on it and then come back after everybody'd had their Theranos lunch and tell them what was going on with them. And so she got arrested and they put her on trial. She lived in a $135 million estate while in the run up to the trial. She got,
is that right? Well, that's how you learn. If you're limited to $135 million estate, you're definitely going to learn a lesson.
Right. And basically they found her guilty on 4 counts, and each of those counts could get her 20 years in jail. Probably won't. They're thinking maybe she'll do 3.
Wow.
And like you said, Camp Cupcake, the same places that, as I said, Felicity and Lori Loughlin went to. And what they can do there in their time, it's like a no lockdown. They can do stuff like mural painting, needlepoint, knitting, crochet, ping pong, basketball. And my favorite was yoga.
Attica.
They could also learn to be forklift operators and plumbers in case she wants to do that next.
It's important to have a skill.
But as far as the yoga goes, I got to warn you, one prison consultant, because if you're going to go to prison, you have to have a consultant.
Totally.
And this woman had done time herself. So she knew. She said the yoga classes were absolutely terrible because they were all at least 5-year-old videos that they had to watch to do yoga.
How dare they? How dare they? Well, how are we supposed to do a downward dog in cell block C if we're looking at 10-year-old videos? That's ridiculous. I am shocked. I tell you, shocked. The Martha Stewart thing. You remember when she went to jail for the SEC stuff?
Right.
We were just talking about this during the New Year's Eve show.
She was a badass in prison, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten about this, but Martha Stewart, while she was in prison, made a nativity set that was mass duplicated when she got out, sold it $150 a clip, and she made a few more million. But that's the lesson, kids. You know, yoga classes may be good or bad, but definitely figure out a way to exploit the system when you get out.
Well, the one thing I will say, it is very possible she won't do any time, because here's the problem. She is very beautiful. And as we all know, beautiful people can't go to prison. No. It's not right. No. So they may do like a house arrest, they're saying too.
Good Lord.
In $135 million estate.
Is she going to be stuck in that estate?
Can you believe it?
How
she would have to like just use one infinity pool for who knows how long, unless the state has more than one, which it probably does.
Well, you got to be careful too, because if you have the tracking bracelet on your ankle and you jump in the infinity pool, it could end poorly for you.
She'll get a waterproof one. Don't worry.
The Deep Six, number 6.
Item number 6. This is again also important. We've got a mix of ridiculous items and really important items. This is a technology warning, if you will.
Right.
Apple's had a bang up end of their 2021. Their stock got off to a great start in 2022. It's a $3 trillion company. A lot of things going right for Apple, but you're going to teach us all now. What is an Apple AirTag?
Well, here's the deal. New York Times did a big article on this, and they were talking about the fact that this young woman in the fall went to a friend's house, and then she got this alert on her phone that said an AirTag is detected near you. Now, Apple has marketed this device. It's a 1-inch device, and they say it's to help you keep track of your stuff. That's their slogan. So you're supposed to get it, and it's like, okay, I'm going to put this in my Hermes bag or whatever it is, and if somebody swipes it, I'll know where it is, right? Mm-hmm. That's not the way the thing is being used to a great extent. This woman says she showed up at her friend's house and got this thing, AirTag, alert near you. She asked her friend, do you have one of these things? And she said, no, they didn't even know what it was. They looked it up. And by the time all was said and done, she saw that it had tracked her for the past 4 hours. Somebody had slipped it into her bag. For the 4 hours, it had tracked her everywhere she had driven.
Oh, that's errands. Scary.
And that's the big fear now, that this thing could be used by people for nefarious purposes, to stalk someone, to, they see you, maybe they see you in a store and they think, wow, that's hot. I'm going to follow her until she's alone somewhere.
Yeah, stalkers, rapists, or finding out where you are so I can go rob your house while you're out.
It's spooky, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean,
it's amazing what we have to be aware of these days.
So when it comes to technology, other than this podcast, we highly recommend you go back to a pencil and a legal pad and nothing more.
Other than this podcast.
Yeah, this podcast. Somehow you're going to have to figure out a way to get this podcast. All right. Before we run out of time, we always do an extra item. I've got one for you, and it is technologically related. Have you ever seen the Great British Bake Off? Oh, God, yes. I love it. Okay. Well, when you're watching the Great British Bake Off or the food shows, do you get hungry?
Sometimes. It depends. I'm really fascinated with how they go about it. And sometimes I see plates that I would not want to touch. Other times, I see things like, oh, that looks yummy. Have you ever had a desire while watching those to lick your TV? Oh, yes. Especially, I don't know. It's when you see something creamy or you see something sizzling and you know that it's spicy. Those are the two things I would go for. Patty, my eyes are up here. So there's a website and an app called The Nerdist, and The Nerdist reports that a Japanese man named Home Miyashita is a professor at Tokyo's, and pardon the pronunciation here, I believe this is right, Mihai University. I apologize if I'm wrong, but he recently developed a television that you can actually lick. It's a taste the TV device. Short called TTTV. It has 10 canisters that each contain a flavored spray.
These sprays contain different flavor combinations, and they can get deployed into a disposable plastic sheet that covers a TV screen. You just request a flavor while you're watching it, and you can go up and lick your TV. And by the way, if you buy this TV or you do this, I'm recommending you get out of the house. And I mean tonight. I don't care what the weather's like. Get outside, get some fresh air.
So here's my question. Who decides what taste canisters to deploy? Do you do it?
Yeah, you do.
Or does the guy at the TV at the food channel do it?
No, they haven't gotten that far yet with it. At this point, you do. So you're watching brownies. You're going to come up with some combination of chocolate. And
I get it. So you have to be creative about what you're licking on your television.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's a disposable screen. I'm betting it costs every time you do that. So my recommendation is just take your sleeve and rub it over and you can reuse, and everyone in the house can reuse that disposable screen.
Mommy, is it okay if I lick the TV too?
Yeah, sure. Fine. Wait, wipe her brother's ketchup off the screen first.
Remember when you were a kid? You're a kid and you said, I don't want your cooties. This is where cooties come from.
Yeah, these are tongue cooties. They're the worst kind. It reminds me of that story we did a few weeks back about the TV where you can touch things that you see on the screen, like reach in and touch a sweater.
Oh, was that a sweater?
Yeah. So it hasn't. Maybe you want to lick the sweater. Who knows?
That's how you get fur balls. And you have an extra story that shows us we're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the time of COVID, we all we get through this together because we all live the same way. So how are people compensating the COVID thing in your story?
Well, here's the thing. I had half the number of people at my Christmas dinner that I anticipated because the day before, 2 different families had to bow out because of COVID. Wow. So somebody in, of course, Palm Beach had the answer. They rented the house next door for New Year's Eve, and they tested everyone as they arrived at their big fete for the evening. If you tested positive, you got sent next door where they had food and drink and entertainment. If you tested negative, you could come into their house. And so everyone gathered around pools in the backyard. There was a positive house and there was a negative house, and you could go and have cocktails with your fellow positive friends. Isn't that a great idea? Oh my God.
And it's something, again, that's a manageable solution for all of us. Right. Whatever your affliction might be, make sure you have a backup house for those that are truly sick.
But the one thing they did recommend, while people are waiting for their rapid test, because even though it's a rapid test, it's like 15 minutes, right? Make sure you have cocktails on hand for everyone. And you need to be, socially distant. Hand them cocktails while they're waiting for their test to come back. And then just send them over to the positive house or to the negative house.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And again, we're just here to help.
We're so weird.
We look forward to bringing you the Deep Six in 2022. We always want to hear what you have to say. You can email me anytime at The Cochran Show, COCHRANSHOW @gmail.com. You can contact Patty through what site again?
Well, pattysteele.com.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if I have the ability. This is a new endeavor for me. If I have the ability to actually accept email on that. But if I don't, reach out to the Cochran Show at gmail.com and tell him, hey, send this to Patty.
Right. I've got several collection agencies who want me to forward a couple of things to you as well.
Exactly.
But we'll do this again and just a little bit of a tease in a much different flavor of what we do. We both have people we care deeply about in our lives who had horrible experiences with addiction. Yes. And everybody listening to this knows or loves somebody who has, or you're currently going through it. We got a special edition of the Deep Six where we're going to talk about that in great detail with those 2 people, and one in your life, one in mine. So we'll leave it at that, I guess, right?
Yeah. It's kind of a beautiful thing because they are, and this is the hopeful part of it. They have both are living in recovery for a number of years.
Yep.
And one is your brother, one is my son.
Yep.
And the thing that we've both learned is how much we have to learn from them about this battle. And that's what I love about it.
And I think you might be helped whether you are on the dependent or the codependent side, either way. So we'll have
absolutely.
that for you soon.
And we have a society that is suffering mightily from it right now. So worth a listen.
All right, from Chicago to New York, come here, Patty. Here's your hug.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Can I lick your sweater?
Well, not without the screen. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for listening to The Deep Six.
Thanks for listening. The Deep Six. Subscribe, rate, follow, or review at pattysteele.com or cochranshow.com.
All right, we hope you enjoy it. And again, would love to know what you think at thecochranshow@gmail.com. You can send me an email there anytime about anything. We note with sadness the passing of Sidney Poitier, an absolute legend and a game changer when it comes to Hollywood's race relations and how Hollywood viewed people of color. God bless him. What a wonderful life he lived. Not easy, but he made it easier for others. Look, I mentioned before, next week we're doing something special on a 2-part edition of The Deep Six. It's not going to be our traditional 6 stories. Patty and I, along with being friends for a very long time, share another commonality that, frankly, a lot of you probably share with us, and that is we have a family member we love who was a desperate addict. And I say was in our case because we're lucky enough to be on the other side of it. In my case, it's my brother Mickey, who I spoke about on the radio with his permission for many years. He was a terrible alcoholic, got sober 18 years ago, just celebrated his 18th year of sobriety on New Year's Day. And he's a walking, talking miracle. And in Patty's case, it's one of her 3 children. It's her son, Jake, a grown man now, but he put himself and his family through hell as he was trying to get sober. And the good news is he did. He was addicted to heroin, and he could have died. And he ran afoul of the law, as my brother did. The similarities are amazing. So we're going to break it into 2 parts. Patty interviews her son, Jake. I interview Mickey. And even with Mickey's disability, I think what he can communicate is remarkable and also remarkably similar to Jake's story. So it doesn't matter if you came from a relatively normal functioning family, though I would never accuse Patty and her husband Steve of that, or if you come from a very dysfunctional household like mine was with my brother Mickey. There is nothing that you can say that will show that drugs and alcohol pick teams. They don't care how much money you have. They don't care what your background is. All they want to do is continue to ruin your life. There's some very inspirational stuff here to share with my brother and with Jake and with Patty and with me. So it's a 2-parter. Next Wednesday, we will post the first of the 2 parts. That would be the interviews with my brother and with Jake. And next Friday, we will post the codependency episode where Patty and I talk about how much codependency we had and we put on those 2 people I've talked about and mentioned. Because the codependency thing is, it's crippling. It really is. And in the end, you don't help. So we hope to help, and we hope you'll get something out of it. I really feel you will. And I think it's an important listen. That's next Wednesday. We'll post part 1. Next Friday, we will post part 2. The dates on those, that would be the 12th and the 14th of January. And, of course, we'll have a show on Monday as well when we get together for Live from My Office. Thanks for supporting all of this. We appreciate it very much. And we'll see you next time. Go to cochranshow.com and hear Live from My Office wherever podcasts are posted as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.